America, we got to get back to doing what's expected of us as free citizens in this democracy. That means being tolerant, being respectful, staying informed, and being engaged. I'm former Congressman Joe Walsh. Follow me here and join the millions of Americans who are renewing their social contract with each other. The social contract, it's on us. It's pretty clear that in November, we elected a really bad person. I was on a show the other day talking about the November election, the 2024 election, and I said that America knowingly in November chose the asshole over whatever, over the party they didn't like, over the party they thought was elitist, because of the border, because of the price of eggs, because of whatever. Damn near everybody who voted for Donald Trump last year know that he's a bad guy. Now, a lot of his hardcore supporters who I talk to all the time, they like the fact that Trump's a bad guy. They like the fact that he lies all the time. Trump's hardcore supporters, they love the fact that he's a jerk. They love the fact that he lies all the time. They love the fact that he's stupid. They love the fact that he really can't talk. They love the fact that he's cruel. They love the fact that he cheats. Trump's hardcore supporters love the fact that he's corrupt. They love the fact that he breaks the rules. Trump's hardcore supporters, they love the fact that he thinks he's above the law. They like it. Look, Trump's hardcore supporters, they know Trump's a really bad human being, but they like it. But most every American knows he's a bad guy. And many who voted for him don't like the fact that he's an asshole, but they chose the asshole over, again, for whatever reason, they chose the asshole. I've told you this a bunch before. I was out there campaigning for Kamala Harris every day for 3 months, and I would hear from these folks in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, all the battleground states. I'd hear from them. They'd tell me to my face, "Hey, Joe, I know Trump's an asshole, but." There was always a but. Again, but the price of eggs, but they're eating cats and dogs, but the border, but whatever. But they looked me in the eyes and they said to me, "I know Trump's a bad guy. I know he's an asshole. I know he's somebody I would never do business with. I know he's somebody I could never trust. I know he's somebody I would never want to be friends with, but." A familiar refrain of mine with Trump has always been, he's the worst of us. He's the absolute worst of us. America, in November of 2024, knowingly elected the absolute worst of us. Now, there are plenty of people on the left who still don't understand why. They still don't get that. When I tell them that most people who voted for Trump, they knew he's an asshole, but they still voted for him, like Democrats and folks on the left just don't understand that. It's obvious. I don't want to get into that now. My only point here is this country, for plenty of reasons, knowingly elected the absolute worst of us in November of 2024. And we're living with that every day. And it's an advantage for Trump because most people look at him and think bad guy, stupid guy, ignorant guy, pathological liar, narcissist. Because most Americans look at Trump and think all of that, everything he does and says is already baked in. We don't expect much from Trump. We assume the worst from Trump and we accept it. It's all baked in. It's who he is. Like the vast majority of Americans don't expect Donald Trump to tell the truth. It's how come when Trump lies, it's not news. Any other politician lied like Trump lies, man, it would be front page news every day. Trump lies every time he opens his mouth, but it's not news because we expect that from Trump. It's baked in. It's baked into who the average voter thinks he is. One way to look at it is, and it's not a good thing, America, we've lowered the bar for Trump. We've dumbed things down for Trump. What we expect from all of our other politicians, we don't expect from Trump. We expect our politicians to generally tell us the truth. We expect them to be decent. We expect them not to be corrupt. I could go on and on and on, right? And when other politicians engage in some of that shit, voters penalize them. Trump's never penalized for his corruption. He's never penalized for his cruelty. He's never penalized for his ignorance. He's never penalized for his lies. He's never penalized when he acts like he's above the law. It's all baked in with Trump. We knowingly elected a very bad person. And so we don't have really normal expectations from him. And every day he does and says stuff that affirms this. Donald Trump yesterday said something yesterday. And right, broken record, TikTok. If Joe Biden had said what Trump said yesterday, and I could do this every day. I could do this every day. It would be boring, wouldn't it, BK? I could do this every day. If Biden said what Trump said yesterday, but yesterday Trump said something again, where if Joe Biden had said it, if any other American president had said it, it would be a huge story. It would be almost scandalous. There would be calls for the 25th Amendment. We'd be talking about Biden's cognitive decline. Trump had a cabinet meeting. He invites all the press in, takes a bunch of questions. Trump was asked yesterday about the fact that last week, the United States of America suddenly paused, stopped a huge shipment of weapons and aid to Ukraine. You probably heard about that last week. We just stopped it. Trump was asked about that stoppage of aid to Ukraine yesterday, and here's what he said. Go ahead, Keith.
More weapons to Ukraine, as you said last night. Last week, the Pentagon paused some shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Did you approve of that pause?
We wanted to put defensive weapons because Putin is not, he's not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. What did you tell me?
Boom,
I
stop.
think that's a question for the
Go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks, Keith. Donald Trump yesterday was asked a direct question. TikTok, sorry if you couldn't hear it. Who ordered the pause in weapons and aid to Ukraine last week? Who ordered that pause? And the president of the United States said, I don't know. The commander in chief said, I don't know. And then, of course, because Donald Trump, MAGA, is the biggest crybaby in the history of the world, he turned to the CNN reporter and said, why don't you tell me? I don't know, he said. Like, that's a really big deal. Suddenly stop a huge supply of weapons, aid, and assistance to Ukraine. Who ordered that? Who ordered that stoppage? And the commander in chief doesn't know. Again, we've so lowered the bar for Trump. I guarantee you, if Joe Biden as president was asked that question, President Biden, who ordered the stop last week in aid to Ukraine? Who ordered that stoppage? And Joe Biden said, I don't know. Oh my word, right? On Fox News, every talking head on Fox News would be shouting, see, Biden's not really president. See, somebody else is in charge. See, Jill Biden's running things. Biden's dead. Biden's senile. Biden doesn't know what he's doing. Oh my God, the cognitive decline. There'd be articles written about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, probably even books. There would be immediate calls for the 25th Amendment to remove the president of the United States because Joe Biden ain't running the show. Who's really president? Republicans would be screaming if Joe Biden had said, I don't know. I'd argue if any other president said that, it'd be a big story. You don't know? That's a big deal. That's a big issue. That was a big, big decision. And the commander in chief doesn't know? Hello? But again, the point with Trump, we've lowered the bar. We don't expect any better. It's like, right, we hold Donald Trump and MAGA. This has always been so perfect. You hold Donald Trump to a lower standard. And I wish, MAGA, you'd really do some reflecting upon that. Why do you hold your dear leader to a lower standard than you would hold any other politician, including any other Republican? If any other politician, MAGA, lied to you as much as Trump lies to you, man, it'd be a big deal. And man, you'd be really pissed off. But yet you allow your dear leader to lie to you all the time. So much was written about Biden's cognitive decline. If Joe Biden had said, I don't know, who's president? But yet Donald Trump says, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. Hey, Pete Hegseth, by the way, Pete Hegseth, his Secretary of Defense, was sitting right next to him. I don't know. It turns out maybe the reporting is some undersecretary, the number 2 guy at Defense, who can't stand Ukraine, who's a big Putin lover. It turns out maybe he's the one that ordered the stoppage in aid to Ukraine. By the way, big deal. Again, should be a big scandal. Who the hell's running the Defense Department? Is Pete Hegseth even in charge of the Defense Department? Who's on first? But more importantly, the commander in chief has no fucking clue. Oh my God, Donald Trump is not fit to be president. Somebody write an article about Donald Trump's cognitive decline. Hey, who's president? Is J.D. Vance running things? Who's president? None of that with Trump. Because we don't expect any better from Trump. We treat Trump, the way to look at it is we treat Trump like he's 7 years old. That's it. We treat Trump like a little child. I may be sounding like I'm having fun with it. I'm not. This is a bad place to be. What's happened in Texas is horrific. And I have not played and will not play the partisan game. Oh, Trump's to blame for what happened in Texas. Stop all of that. Yeah, nobody's politicized weather disasters and disaster relief like Trump. Trump's the guy who, when fires break out in California, a blue state, Trump says, I ain't helping you. But if something happens in a red state, I'll help you. That's Trump. Trump's the one who's, took a sledgehammer and just whacked the National Weather Service and a bunch a bunch of the critical personnel. But I'm not going to get political and say because of what Trump and Doge and Musk have done, that is at all responsible for this flash flooding that happened in Texas. Well over 100 people dead, well over 100 more missing. It's horrific. And our thoughts and prayers should go out to the families of the victims and the families out there in Texas still waiting to find out if their loved one can and will be found. But the governor of Texas yesterday pissed me off. The governor of Texas yesterday acted like a coward. He was having a press conference talking about answering questions about the latest, the flood, the victims, who was in charge, what happened, how this happened, blah 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 blah. Right? It happened Friday. We're 4 days late. 4 days later, taking questions right from the media. Where are we at? How did this happen? Bum bum bum. And he was asked a question from the media, something like, do we know who's to blame? What was to blame for this? And this was Abbott's response. Have a listen.
Is an investigation. We know a special session's coming in about 10 days. That's where I would say where it begins. Candidly, those investigations will begin by both the House and Senate before we go into session. So probably beginning later this week or the early part of next week, there'll be committees formed that are already kind of working on ideas about ways to address this. Second part of the question needs to be addressed. You ask, I'm going to use your words, who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. And that is Texas, every square inch of our state cares about football. You could be in Hunt, Texas, Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community, they care about football. High school, Friday night lights, college football, or pro. And know this, every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, that we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions. In fact,
stop, Keith. Stop. Thank you, man. Hopefully TikTok, you picked up some of that. Abbott was asked who's to blame by the media. A perfectly natural question 4 days after the event. And I want you to think about this. Well over 100 people dead, even more, something like 160 to 70 people still missing. And the governor of Texas compares all of that to football. He uses a football analogy. I love football. I played football. Well over 100 people dead, flash flooding, 160, 70 people missing. And he compares that to football. He hides behind football to avoid answering the question. Who's to blame, he says. That's the talk of losers, Abbott says. Down here in Texas, we all love football. Losing teams are losers. They're the ones that ask questions like that. Winning teams just look ahead, look forward. The word choice of losers, Abbott said. Who's to blame? Bullshit. What a cowardly thing to say. Sticking with Abbott's football analogy, if he wants to go there. Football teams, they all film their games. High school, college, pro. Football teams, they all film their games. Why do they film their games? They film their games so that they can watch that film in the days after the game, so that they can learn from their mistakes, so that they can improve upon their mistakes and do better next time. So that, yeah, the teams that lost, they can figure out why they lost, what's to blame, who's to blame. Let's fix it so that we win next time. Every football team does that. Who's to blame? It's not the word choice of losers. Who's to blame? That's the word choice of accountability. Let's figure. There are over 100 people dead, over 160 people missing. Let's figure out what the hell happened, what went wrong, what we could have done better, what we could have done right to make sure that we're ready when this happens next time. That's what you do when you want to save lives. That's what you do when you want to hold people accountable, when you want to learn, just like a football team, learn from what happened. Yet Abbott refuses to say any of that. Instead, like a coward, he hides behind, hey, here in Texas, man, we love football. And here in Texas, man, when you play football, man, we're losers. Looking at mistakes you made, that's for losers. We're gonna play hard in the next game. It's a cowardly thing to do. I mean, it's hide behind the skirt of a football team. You're afraid. You turn on the media. You're afraid to answer a real question, a question about accountability, and instead you hide behind a football analogy. But even your football analogy doesn't make sense. I found that answer to be so sad. Natural disasters. Shit happens. Fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, flash flooding. And we do our best, governments at all levels, private institutions at all levels, do our best to prepare for and respond to natural disasters. But every time one happens and every time we lose lives, hell yeah, we don't do everything well in our preparation and our response. Isn't the important thing, though, to learn from what we did wrong, to learn from who screwed up and how screw-ups happened? Isn't that really the important thing, to make certain we do better next time, to make certain that more lives are saved? That's how come that question, who's to blame, what went wrong, is asked. 4 days after the fact, Abbott still doesn't have the fucking balls to answer, the decency to answer a basic question like that. Instead, he puts on his football pads and hides behind football. Cowardly thing to do. Final thought today. This whole Epstein thing, I could give a damn. Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein list, who killed Epstein, the conspiracy, the files, the Epstein file, blah blah blah. Only point I'm making is this: my friends on the MAGA right, man, they live and breathe conspiracies. They believe anything in the world. They believe conspiracies. And the important thing to me in this whole story is that the very people right now, Trump, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, the top two people at the FBI, Patel and Bongino, these people now in positions of power, J.D. Vance, these people now in official government positions of power who now are able to see the truth about Epstein, they're the very same people the last couple of years who've been feeding their followers Epstein rumors, Epstein conspiracies. There's a secret Epstein list. Epstein killed himself. We got to Kash Patel, number one at the FBI, before he became head of the FBI, he was out there pushing the Epstein bullshit to his audience. He fed this stuff. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, did the same damn thing. She fed this stuff. J.D. Vance, Trump, Bongino, the number two guy at the FBI. They all fed their hungry MAGA audience these lies, this conspiracy bullshit. And then they find out it is all lies and bullshit. And they come out yesterday, Trump and everybody came out yesterday and said, Epstein? What Epstein? Who Epstein? Why Epstein? Where Epstein? Why are you still talking about this Epstein guy? Don't know nothing. And again, of course, all of their followers, wait a minute. What about the big Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy? The list, the Bob. Now they're all pissed. The bad people in this play, the bad people, the despicable people in this story are Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, J.D. Vance, and so many others who purposely lied to their audience, their followers, their listeners, their voters, purposely fed like they do with everything. These people in positions of power, they purposely lie to their MAGA audience. We won the 2020 election. They're eating cats and dogs. I could go on. Pizzagate, everything. Hillary Clinton killed a bunch of kids. They feed their audience conspiracies, ugly lies. And then when it turns out that, oops, that was all a lie, they just wash their hands clean and want to walk away. That's so fucking wrong. So wrong. I'm not angry at the people who believe all these conspiracies. I'm angry at the people in positions of influence who lie to these people who believe all these conspiracies. And that's all that's happening right now. That's all that's happening right now with Epstein. Kash Patel, year and a half ago, somebody murdered Jeffrey Epstein. It's all a big conspiracy. There's this list, right? And I got the names. We know the names of the people that flew on his plane and were with underage girls. We got the list. This is a big, dangerous worldwide conspiracy, and they often because of it. And then Kash Patel becomes the head of the FBI, and he's given the paperwork, the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. And Kash Patel is like, oops, my bad. Let me think of another conspiracy. Shame on them. Damn them. Two quick things. You want to shoot me an email, do Joe Walsh, the social contract with Joe Walsh at gmail.com. That's my email. The social contract with Joe Walsh. Thanks, Keith. All one word at gmail.com. Second thing, join me in the No Kings movement. Please, will you? Go to this website I'm going to give you right here and now, oneflaginitiative.org. That's all one word too. oneflaginitiative.org. Go there, sign up, join me in this No Kings movement. Let's make sure that all of us can embrace this one basic principle that we do not have kings in America. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you're having a good week. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Keith. Go to my Substack. Check out my Substack. Everything I say, do, write, all my videos, the conversations I'm having with Americans, they're all at my Substack. Go to my Substack. Subscribe if you'd like. Social Contract with Joe Walsh.substack.com. Check it out, please. Social Contract with Joe Walsh.substack.com. That's the central place for everything Joe Walsh does. Thank you. Good week. Have a good week. Be brave.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been The Social Contract with Joe Walsh.